Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Blaze from Southern Stick Survival. So, I'm finally back to pick up on the Red Dawn Preppin 101 series. Um, so, I've done a lot of, layout on this thing, outline this thing, and try to get it, where it's good usable material and in the right orders and whatnot. So, I'm not going to swear it's perfect, but, I think I got it laid out. So, really what I wanted to do with this video was kind of talk about what to expect. Um, the realities of a disaster. Okay, the all the little smart little guys that sit around and figure out percentages and shit. They predict that about 90% of the population will be dead in the first year. Okay, let it sink in for a minute. 90% of the population in a worldwide global collapse. Some sort of global disaster. Um, 90% of the population would die in 1 year. We got to start thinking. Some of those may be your close family members. You may literally, have to watch people you love die or starve to death or something. Um, things you have to think about. Okay, that's the realities of disaster. Okay, um, there's some other realities like, what if, what about all these people that are heavily medicated today that are taking things to keep their chemicals balanced and things? What about when they start coming off of those drugs? Will they be able to cope? What will they do? What will happen with them? Um, you got what if it's somebody that's close to you? Let's say if it's one of your family members. What are you gonna do? I mean, are you prepared to deal with that? So these are realities of disaster you have to think about. Okay, um, it's not all about defending your property against a mob. Sometimes you have to deal with some pretty intense things and deal with it with loving hands. So it's kind of like, you know, back in the day they used to lock people away in these homes, and you would have some what people would call crazy Aunt Esther, locked up in a bedroom upstairs. But the truth is you just couldn't let her down because she couldn't cope with life and didn't have all these psychotic drugs to balance your chemicals out for you and whatnot. So another thing is you want to think about is your neighbors. So your neighbors will come along, and when things start getting bad for them, whether they're preppers or not, things start getting bad for them. You got to worry about your neighbors coming in because they probably know you better than anybody. They know you've been building chicken houses and rabbit pens and stuff like that, or just whatever it is you do. They know about your garden. They know about all this stuff. So your neighbors are probably some of your people you need to watch the most, because they'll be coming over wanting to borrow or get everything and think that you should because you have it. Also, it doesn't matter how many trigger pullers you have in your family and how good they are. You can't stop a mob of dozens and dozens of people overrunning your property to come and take what you have. And see, that's, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff throughout this series as far as what you need to do to prepare and the things you should have on hand and whatnot. It doesn't always mean you're going to get to keep those things. And you may even have to leave your bug out location. Like for me, I live in my bug out location. The only way I would leave here is if it literally was overrun. There's nowhere better to bug out to. I mean, this is my place. I'm working on getting it set up. This is my hillbilly homestead, is so I call it. I'm in a very good position as far as my location, the availability of land around me and things like that. It's just not there. So as far as that goes, I couldn't leave and find anywhere. If I were bugging out, I would bug out to a place like this. So, and anybody bugging out is coming to a place like this. So, anyways, I would have to try to defend this piece of property all I could. But even here, with this, over the years, this place has been laid out to be defensible. It's always been a thought that something like this could happen. And so this whole place has always been set up to be a defensible area, and now more so than ever. Um, we're putting a lot of different infrastructure in. No matter what you have, somebody could come and take it. All right. Now, all you people who live in the city and these urban areas and stuff, you really got your work cut out for you. And I'll try to cover some of that stuff as well. But you're probably going to need to focus more on our bug out sections of this series. Um, and also something else I want to do in this series is like I pretty much got all my stuff in order, but I know a lot of people are really just getting into it. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about some ways to budget build also. Like say you have nothing today and no skills, I want the series to cover you. If you have some skills and some gear, I want the series to cover you. If you have a lot of skills and a lot of gear, I want the series to cover you. Okay? I want everybody to be able to get something from this. But more importantly, I want everyone who isn't doing something to be able to, if it's because you don't have a bunch of money, I'm going to show you how to not have a bunch of money and get started. If it's because you don't know what to do, I'm going to show you what to do. I'm going to help you get started. I'm going to show you how to get the basics down. Okay? So that's kind of what I want to do with this whole series. Um, the Red Dawn Preppin series is in fact more of a, I guess more of a get to a place to defend type series. It is kind of like a sort of like a bug out global catastrophe type series. I mean that's what you got to think about, global catastrophe. Like if I have to leave this place, if you have to bug out or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, my intention is to stay here. But if I had to bug out, this is what I would want to take and the skills that you need to have at any rate for anything. Okay, so you know, I know a lot of people watching this are already preppers, um, and so I kind of wanted to touch base on a couple of preps that you really have to watch out for. There are some preps that you should have, but they also can get you killed just as easy as anything. Like let's say it's the middle of the winter and you're running that nice wood heater that you put in. You went out and you gathered your firewood and you put it together and you've done your due diligence and you've got your preps in order. What about your neighbors sitting down there? They smell the wood burning and they're cold. They're freezing. They didn't make any of their preps. They're going to show up for you to share the heat. I can promise you. They're not going to sit down and let their kids freeze to death. They're going to come to you and be like, hey, you got some heat, you need to share it. But then it's going to turn into food and water and all the things that you've worked hard to prep for and they didn't. And you just don't have the capacity to take care of everyone. That's just the whole thing. You can't take care of everyone. Um, so there's the aspect, you know, seeing smoke come from a chimney or whatever. All right. So, or how about, you know, it's 30 days into an apocalypse and you fire up your generator to charge your cell phones or whatever it is you're going to do, whatever you need to fire up your generator for. You just put a target on your back. Everybody's coming to the sound of that generator. They want some power, and they know if you got a generator and some gasoline, then you are a prepper and you have something else, probably food, and by now they're really looking for it. All the shelves will be empty, every store will be empty, everything, there'll be nothing in 30 days. It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be mad chaos in the first 30 days, okay, once these things have run out. Now, we're not talking about some small thing like a hurricane coming. We're talking global catastrophe, um, which is quite possible at this point. Another thing is um, you got, like, if you have large animals like cows or whatever, if you've been working on your preps and you're storing up meat and stuff like that, cows and pigs and such, those draw a lot of attention also. Everybody in your area can spot cows and whatnot. So as much as I agree that cows are a much better source of food than a rabbit or a chicken or something, then, you know, cows and pigs are the best source of meat, you know, for that you can raise there, in my opinion. Um, but they're going to draw a lot of attention to yourself. So it's something you may want to think about moving back to, you know, rabbits or chickens or something like that that's not so easily noticed and recognized. I don't want this video to get too long. Basically, I just wanted to cover some of the realities, actual realities of disaster. In the next part of this series, I'm going to do your basic loadout, what I would have in what I have in my pack, basically. The basics now, not because um, your second, like all your the weaponry and things like that. It's all up to you. That's what I call part of your custom loadout. We're going to discuss custom loadouts in the following video. Maybe it may come into the same video. Just see how long the video gets to be. I want to keep these kind of short. I'd like to keep them around 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes at the most, 15 absolute max if I have a lot of info. I want to keep them short, keep them interesting. I don't want you to just look at a bobbing head video either. I don't want you to sit here and talk. I mean, I want you to see some things. Some of the things we're going to talk about, basically, it's like your basic loadout, your custom loadouts. We want to talk about why you're packing, what you're packing. We're going to go more in depth about what preps will actually get you killed. Comms, we definitely need to talk about comms and Faraday cages and whatnot, because an EMP is quite possible. It is a very real threat for us. We talk about some mags, what a mag group is, mutual assistance group. We're going to talk about loan prepping and, about maybe you're looking into the wrong place for your mag group. Sometimes it's just your family. That's all you need is just your family. Or the people around you, your neighbors, close family. Don't overlook these people because they're going to need to survive as well. And then let's see, foraging and hunting techniques, trapping techniques, things like that. We're going to be going over that, especially as the seasons come along. And also, materia medica. I've been working on one for my area. That's probably was my weakest suit, is foraging for food and foraging for plants and whatnot. So that's one of my weaker things. So that's something else we're going to be working on. We talk about also too gardening and landscape gardening. Basically, is using plants around your lawn, like the line driveways or porches and things like that. Things where you can put that is actually a usable, edible food source that not everyone would see, because big, large gardens are going to draw attention in a bad situation. Now, you should be gardening all the time, sure, but you can't just jump out there and start doing it. You need to start practicing now. We talk about black powder, just in case, you need to learn a lot of primitive skills. That's something we're going to cover a lot about, is primitive skills, because those skills were used long before power and all this other stuff. And, I have a lot of ideas we would need some stuff like that, and if we don't need some things like that, then at least we do have the skill set in our toolbox, and that's what's going to be important. Some other things like, knife sharpening and the basics of survival, and the real basics of how to get the basics. And, like I said earlier, we're going to do like minimal kits. How you could, you can take 20 or 30 bucks and go down to Dollar Tree and get yourself started with a little bit of kit. Also, we're going to cover some things like food and water preps. What you should have on hand for X amount of time, for each person in the family and whatnot. And, where you're going to actually bug out to, because like a lot of people have this misconception that they're just going to throw on a pack and they're going to run out to the woods and they're going to survive in the woods. They're going to take their pack and a little bit of gear in their pack, and they're just going to, eke out a life out in the wilderness somewhere. So this is probably not going to work out. So we need to talk about some more realistic, type bugging out type things. And, listen, if you're in the city, in these urban areas and whatnot, you probably don't have time to get out, or you're probably not going to be able to get out, because property is outrageous, especially places like where I live. If something has a for sale sign slapped on it, it's sold before the paint can dry. It is literally, it goes in no time. So that kind of covers everything for this video, I think. It's just a few of the upcoming videos I want to do. It's just something to think about. Like I said, we're going to cover a whole array of things here for the absolute beginner on up, okay? So I appreciate y'all checking out my video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you click the little bell for the notifications so that when the next one of these videos come out, you'll be alerted to it. And I do thank you for watching.